You almost got it.
Test, test.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to City Hall. Hope you all had a nice holiday and looking forward to a healthier New Year since Things are getting canceled left and right this week. And I know that the Express Times is on, we're broadcasting this on our YouTube channel, and they're on that call. But today, we have, I think, some very good news for the city of Easton, even in the light of decreasing crime rates, which our police department is doing an excellent job of keeping our cities safe. But we're announcing the creation of a broad spectrum of services to men, women, adolescents, and children who are victims of crime, as well as their family members and friends affected by a criminal incident. Services will always be free of charge and confidential. This division, which will better be defined by Police Chief Scalzo, is being created to assist our residents as they cope with the aftermath of criminal activity that they may have witnessed or been a subject of. The soon-to-be established Easton Police Department's Victim Advocacy and Services Division is among a relatively small number of victim assistance divisions that work within law enforcement agencies. Being part of a law enforcement agency will allow victim advocacy professional to quickly respond to a victim's needs, meet with officers on the crime scene, and provide victims with a mix of immediate crisis counseling and practical advice. Most victim services programs are located at nonprofit agencies that work an 8 to 4 or 8 to 5 job. Although only 21% of major crimes get to a prosecutor's office, therefore only about 80% of people that are involved in crimes will have victim assistance available to them at the time of the incident. Establishing a victim services program within a law enforcement agency makes sense for several reasons. If victims receive support from victim services counselors, they may be more likely to report a crime or cooperate in its investigation. That support is an added tool for law enforcement agencies to increase their conviction rates. The work of victim services complements community policing, which emphasizes establishing relationship with members of the neighborhood. Having a victim service counselor on the scene can also free up officer time. The counselor can talk to the victim and advise and counsel the victim, and the officer can get back to service. The primary goal of the victim advocacy professional is to provide on-the-scene crisis intervention for victims of crime and other trauma, and to refer those individuals to the outside social agencies for follow-up service. I would like to just say that, going off script, which I usually do anyway, I think it's the time for the next step of the next generation of police officers. I am not in favor of defunding police, whatever that term means anymore. I believe that we need more law enforcement. However, that recognizing that we need more law enforcement also recognizes the fact that there's a part of law enforcement that is more social than law enforcement, and that is what this is going to address. Hopefully, you'll see this division grow. We're going to be recommending to City Council that they appoint this position in the budget and provide the funding for it. And we're looking forward to that. At this time, I'd like to introduce our city administrator, Campos. We've been talking about this position, the three of us, for probably at least 12 or 14 months. And we think that now's the time to announce it to the public, because it sets the stage for new goals for next year. Our police department has done a great job of decreasing crime. It's now time to ramp up the other portion of the social aspects of our police department. So without further ado, I'll just introduce Campos.
I just want to say a few words. Mostly they have to do with the department as a whole, where we have been going in terms of just globally. The department itself, I think, some of the significant changes started not only when the chief took over, our current chief took over the ranks as chief, when the mayor and council approved his nomination, but truly in 2007, the department started to go through a lot of changes, and those changes had to do with becoming accredited. This is now we're moving into the fifth term rather of accreditation. It's a 3-year cycle, and after this term, the city's going to be the department's going to be bumped up to then another level of a minority group of agencies that achieve that type of accreditation, which really overall helps with the operation of the department. And you're going to listen to a theme here, and obviously it's not ending, but it's beginning also today with the announcement of the Victims Advocate Division. But through this time, through since 2007 and the accreditation process, I think a couple significant things have occurred. Number one is that the department itself, the makeup of the police force, at least even the individual, is changing. We're hiring individuals that not only meet the qualifications of the civil service process, but then also have the soft skills in terms of communication. We're hiring different types of police officers. So today's police officers weren't yesterday's police officers, and that I think is a point that sometimes is overlooked, and I want to make sure that we tout that accomplishment today. And despite that, we still have some challenges, and again, that's why we're making this announcement today, to have a dedicated individual that's really trained to go and work with victims of crime. The second part to this, in what's been occurring since this accreditation process, as a point of reference, has started, is, and at least since I've been here as city administrator, is that the department, not only are the soft skills changing, but also the makeup as well. And today's department is more reflective of the population that we serve. I'm happy to announce that close to 16 to 17% of the department looks like the population, meaning it's diverse. It's racially diverse, ethnically diverse, and that's a very, very positive thing. And that's something that, as much as we can, we're going to continue to look for that diversity, because that only just helps the department and helps for a better service out in the community. So those are just a couple of the points that I wanted to make. And as the mayor said, the funds will be coming from the stimulus money that came from the federal government, and that's going to be the basis, at least, for starting this position. And I really tip my hat to not only the chief but also the mayor for making this happen today. So I'm going to turn it over, I believe, now to Chief Scalzo.
I just want to add to what Louis just said for the time being. I just want to say that when I took office in 2008, the accreditation process had already started. Whenever I meet with mayors across the country, I tell them that they should get their police departments accredited. It does cost money. There's no doubt about it, but I think it's money well spent. Things like training and de-escalation. What makes me very proud of our department is not just what they've done in Easton, what they've done in the region. When you get a call from a suburban police department because you have a guy who's locked up in a house threatening himself, his own life, and his life of his family, and they call our people in to de-escalate that, we've not had, thank God, and it's because of the training, not one incident that escalated into something else, whether it was the young boy down on the dam, whether it was the guy over on 13th Street. We de-escalate rather than escalate. And that's part of the accreditation process. De-escalation is really important. I'm the kind of guy that gets really excited, and police officers can't do that in a situation. They have to calm people. And our police officers have done that very well. It doesn't mean that they're going to be lazy or not enforce the law, but it does mean when they enforce the law, they can do it in a way that doesn't take it from a misdemeanor up to a felony. And that's what we train. And I really believe that anyone in this entire country who oversees a police department that doesn't go through the accreditation process is really doing a disgenuine service to their residents. And I thank Mayor Mittman for starting that process, but and basically it was the DOJ that really started it. But I also want to thank City Council for supporting. Our budget for police goes up every year because of training and types of equipment that we use. The tasers was a really big thing, to use a taser instead of lethal weapons, to get rid of the side handle batons that all they do is beat people. I mean, these were weapons that were thought of back in the 80s when I was here as being something revolutionary. Rather than hitting somebody over the head, you use a side baton to hit him in the gut. Should be hitting him at all. I mean, our police officers are doing a really good job. and oftentimes they don't get the credit. I tell people right out, it's not me, it's not city council, it's not our economic development people that have changed this city, it's the police department. If you don't have a city that's clean and safe, no one wants to live here, let alone invest here. And that's the difference between 2008 and today. Now, that's cost us a lot of money. I mean, we have 11 additional police officers at a tune of about $1.5 million to $2 million a year. We have a larger budget, but the fact of the matter is it's money well spent to protect the citizens of Easton. And if you're not involved in the criminal activity, the chances are very good that you're not going to be subjected to that. Unfortunately, what it does do is it spills out into the neighborhoods, and that is something we're trying to address also with this individual that will be hired. And hopefully I could be here in a year from now and say it's been so successful that we're going to increase the size to 3 or 4, but we're going to start out with 1. So the gentleman who's heading the department right now and has a wonderful team, he'll thank the team as well, I'm sure, just as I thank my team, is Carl Scalzo, whose father was a captain in the department, and he's going to share some personal experiences with you, and I'll introduce him now, Chief Scalzo.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I feel like I should just leave now after all those accolades, just kind of say thank you and walk on. But the purpose for today's press conference, obviously, like the mayor had stated, is to talk a little bit about a new division, or a very specific division that we're creating within the department. It's going to be a division designated as the Division of Victim Advocacy and Outreach. That'll be the official title of the division. And it's going to be designed to champion victim advocacy and outreach throughout the city. The creation of the division, it's very personal to me. It was derived from conversations that I had with my sister, Teresa Scalzo, some 5 years ago. My sister spent her entire life, her entire adult life, working in the field of domestic violence, and specifically victim advocacy as it relates to that specific crime. Unfortunately, my sister passed away at the age of 48 from an aggressive form of cancer. However, those conversations about the importance of fighting for victims it lived on within me. I'm going to take a moment, if I could, if you would indulge me, just to speak a little bit about my sister and her accolades. I do it so you understand her passion for victim advocacy. Plus, I really do enjoy having the opportunity to speak about my sister whenever I can. She was the deputy director of the Navy JAG Trial Assistance Program, where she served as the Navy's expert on sexual assault prosecution. She served as the policy advisor for the Department of Defense Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office. She was the director of the National Center for the Prosecution of Violence Against Women. She supervised the creation of the National Institute of the Prosecution of Sexual Violence. She designed the curricula for the Sexual Assault Trial Advocacy and Evidence-Based Prosecution for the National Advocacy Center and the Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Advanced Training for the Department of Defense. She was also an expert committee member on the National Prison Rape Elimination Committee. She was a member of the Civic Research Institute Board of Directors for Domestic Violence. In addition, she was recognized with numerous awards throughout her career, including the Ronald Wilson Reagan Public Policy Award, which she received posthumously. At that time, the department wrote, and I quote, "The Department of Justice today recognized the late Teresa Scalzo with the Ronald Wilson Reagan Public Policy Award for her lifelong dedication to achieve justice for victims and improving the justice system's response to crimes at all levels of government." Assistant Attorney General Alan Hansen for the Office of Justice Program stated that although her death came much too early, Ms. Scalzo fulfilled more than one lifetime with good works, laboring tirelessly to hold offenders accountable and secure for victims the justice they deserve. The Department of Justice is proud to honor her for her outstanding service and for her unflagging pursuit of justice on behalf of the injured and aggrieved. Again, I read that resume to you, again, to show my sister's passion, and again, because I do enjoy speaking of her whenever I have the opportunity. But as you can see from her resume, victim advocacy is what she basically lived for, specifically in her instance in domestic violence and helping those women who couldn't speak for themselves. She would stand up and give them a voice. So the conversations we had prior to her passing, and many of them were just prior to her passing, really stuck with me. She believed that all victims of crimes should be heard and helped to be made whole, whether it be emotionally, financially, or physically. In law enforcement, very often we focus on the offenders. We make sure that the offenders are brought to justice and held accountable for the crimes that they commit. And in doing that, that's our way of serving those victims and making sure that the individuals who victimize them are held accountable. But again, my sister believed, and she convinced me, that there was more that could be done on a local level to deal with the needs of victims, and that I was in a position as the chief of police to kind of make that change and make that happen. As time went on after my sister's passing, as things often do, you tend to kind of forget those conversations or not take action on them. And recent conversations that I had during a really, I think, productive meeting with the Justice Institute, where specific members of the Institute, specifically Marvin Boyer and Chuck Dickerson, who I consider friends, we actually had a conversation where those conversations in reference to victim advocacy and the importance of it brought back the conversations with my sister. And basically made me realize that the time was now to kind of make that change, to try to implement something where these victims, where we as a department can give them a voice and help them be made whole. So I thank them for that. They're in attendance here today, and I thank them for that conversation and for what they do. With the creation of this Victim Advocacy and Outreach Division, the Easton Police Department is going to take one giant step forward to assist those victimized in the city gain their voice. This division is going to work tirelessly to advocate for domestic violence victims, mental illness individuals who are dealing with mental illness and try to prevent recidivism in those issues, and for drug addiction to help those individuals get the resources or the help that they may need. They're going to work with children who are victimized and are exposed to traumatic events. They're going to do that through the coordination with the United Way and their Handle with Care program that's currently running within our department. They're going to act as liaisons between the department and community groups in the city, such as the 3rd Street Alliance and Safe Harbor. They'll also act as a liaison between the department and the county's advocacy programs. So basically, this division, although their job description is not written yet, is basically going to be all-encompassing to deal with the victims. They're going to work closely with our patrol division. This position is going to fall directly under our lieutenant of patrol, under their command. So they're going to work right there with the patrol officers to make sure that nobody in the city of Easton or anybody victimized here in the city ever falls through the cracks. They're going to make sure the resources that are available within the county, the city, the state are all made available to these victims. They're going to make sure they have a voice and they have some place that they can reach to the department when they need answers, when they want questions. The best way I can describe a position like this after our conversation, the way I thought of it, and I may have even mentioned it that night, is that I look at it to think, how would I want if my wife, my children, or somebody I loved or cared about was victimized here in the city or anywhere? What would I want from that department? What resources would I want? How would I want them to be treated? And that's what this position is going to ensure that they get. Again, it's all about that voice from that conversation so many years ago with my sister, making sure that these victims have a voice. And that's really the plan for the department. And I really do think it's a good step forward. Like I mentioned, the position or the specific job description is still going to be written, but I'm excited about the value that this will bring to the department. I'm excited about the value that it's going to bring to the city. And I do want to take just a moment to thank not only the mayor, the city administrator, all of city council for their unwavering support. We've been through some tough times in this country, especially related to law enforcement. Their unwavering support of our department has been instrumental to allow us to continue to move forward and keep our citizens safe. We've worked hard to hold up our end of the bargain and do things the way we think they should be done professionally. We've worked hard to do things like the mayor stated through accreditation and other things as far as training goes, to make sure we're doing things in the best possible way that we can through all best practices and models that are available to us. But that support is extremely instrumental. So I thank you and I thank all of City Council for that. But it is important to note that the officers, the men and women of the Easton Police Department, as I try to do every chance I can, they go out there every day, whether it be through situations like we had with some of the protests and things going on, whether it be through COVID. These officers show up every day and they do the heavy lifting of this job. And I'm telling you that as I sit here and I watch it after almost a 30-year career, it is an extremely challenging job all across the country. These officers deserve nothing but the utmost respect and appreciation. I have that for them. I know the citizens of Easton are appreciative of what they do. I hope a position like this will help us kind of build those bridges like we talked about with the Justice Institute and trying to build those bridges with our community and make them stronger. I think it's an important part of law enforcement. And I thank everybody for coming out here today. So thank you. I have a copy of this if anybody wants to take a copy of what I read here, so that you have kind of, generally I went a little off script, but I have a copy of it if anybody wants it. And if anybody has any questions, there you go.
I'm sure the Express will call you later if they have any questions. Rudy's on the YouTube right now. I want to thank Mr. Dickerson, Mr. Boyer, Mr. Welsh for coming, and Judy and Mrs. Dickerson for coming. I think your conversation that night when you went through the police department brought this to the front burner again, And I thank you for that because as a person who watches the news and sees what happened across this country, I'm very proud of this community. This community has never had a problem voicing their opinion as they did with the protest, but always doing it in a way that's respectable not only to themselves but to others. And that makes me very proud. I'm very proud of the 3 events we had in Easton, and we're not done. We need more. I mean, there's more to do, and I hope that this position becomes more of a focal point of jumping to the next generation. And I just very proud of this community. I'm very serving at a time when we reversed the trends of the when I came in. The vernacular when I ever met with the chief was Latin Kings, Bloods, Crips, etc. And we don't talk about those gangs anymore. We talk about individuals, but we don't talk about gangs, and that's very, very important. The Route 222 coalition that was here when I got here was very important, and it should have been carried on, but funding from the federal government slipped away, and so did all of our efforts. However, through our other professionals in other cities of Lancaster, York, Reading, Allentown, Bethel, and Easton, we still meet, we still discuss things, and because crime doesn't know any geographical boundaries. They're going to go up and down 78 and 222, and we know that. So we've done other things. We're through our IT department. Mazin is in the back of the room, and we're looking to put the cameras where we need them. License plate recognition. We're utilizing technology to assist our officers in checking when there is a crime, who was in the area, what do we know about those people, who went across the bridge, and oftentimes, as you saw most recently, these are crimes that aren't committed by local Estonians or the Lehigh Valley people. They're committed by people who are coming across from the Jersey or New York area. And we need to be cognizant of that. So I know the police have a good relationship with New Jersey State Police, New York State Police, and all the police departments over there. So we'll open up for questions. If there are any questions from anyone, not just the press. Yes, Joe. Well, we appreciate you doing that. I always find I learn more from people who have opposing viewpoints than I do from people who, anybody who surrounds themselves with people that like thinking, you don't learn. So we thank you. And I wish I could have been there. I know in talking to some of the people that were there and to the chief, it was a very, very productive night. I know I was very impressed when I went through it. And again, it's, when you can get a grant, write a grant for that, what do you call that software system? The TI system, yeah. When you can get a grant to do that, other departments are jealous, and we're more than happy to share it with them. I mean, whatever we need to do. I mean, it's not just Easton. As I said, crime doesn't know geopolitical boundaries. So, if Wilson wants to come in, Palmer, Forks, we get called to their services oftentimes. As the one was the gentleman who was holed up in Northwood Avenue, out there in Palmer Township. It was near my brother's house, and it's really good. So thank you, Joe. Yeah, I failed the job. I failed. They buried me. Oh, only once? Chuck, you're back. You have 8 more lives. Marvin.
She was a great one. She was by far the greatest scouser for sure. She was a great woman.
Well, I can see that resonated in what you had to say, which I think is a progressive step forward.
I can tell you that Teresa was a student of mine, and she was a lovely young lady, going far too young, but very dedicated to her mission and her goals. And
this is a great step as far as the position, and it's an individual who served as a lady last 40 years, that's been happening. That's a very, very powerful. I need volunteer help with my job, just some experience with that. I know how hard that is to put that together. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, we'll let our HR department know that.
Mayor, I wanted to add one item in terms of the direction of where the department's going. Well, again, while we're hearing about this important step today, this year too, with the closeout of the ending of an old union contract and then the start of a new one, I have to give kudos to the union as well, in that we negotiated, without getting into a lot of details, but the option, if you will, of putting close to about 1,000 community service type hours on the street by the police department. Now I'm summarizing it, but it certainly, I think it's in the same vein of getting or looking at policing from a different lens, if you will. And I meant to say that in my earlier remarks, but I think you take all these things together and they do add up. One thing that I've spoken with members of the NAACP specifically too is that, you know, when it comes to diversity in the department, it's sometimes it's not that easy to get diversity because of the way the system's set up through the civil service process. And there's nothing wrong with that process per se, but it's something that we've been working on, and I want to give kudos again to Chief Scalzo, for always working with the administration and hearing us that, you know, diversity is important, and we strive to really go out and recruit individuals that, you know, look like our community that we're servicing. So again, we've come a long way, I think, in terms of just speaking macroly about the policing, and we still have a ways to go to continue to improve, but that's in any organization. You always have to constantly be changing and constantly be evolving. So again, I'm glad I'm part of this, and Chief, again, and the mayor, nice job on putting this together.
Thank you all very much for coming. We appreciate and for giving us more input.